So, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Nosa Obaseki, and I'm the research assistant at MSP, and I'll be facilitating today's interview. The purpose of this conversation is to learn more about the cross-institutional research collaboration between the Michigan School of Psychology and Saybrook University. We hope to explore how this partnership began, the experiences of both faculty and students, and the impact this collaboration has had on research, mentorship, and professional development. To get us started, could each of you briefly introduce yourselves and describe your role in the collaboration? And I'll start with you, Dr. Cusick.
Hello, I'm Dr. Kate Cusick. I'm core doctoral faculty at the Michigan School of Psychology, and I'm also the Psychi faculty advisor, which is sort of how we initially started collaborating, and we can talk about that a little bit more after the introductions.
My name is Dr. Vanessa Brown. I'm the Associate Chair of Clinical Psychology at Saybrook University, and I am also a core faculty there. And I serve as the Psychi Faculty Advisor at Saybrook University. Again, that's how Kate and I were able to connect with one another.
Hey, I am Jasmine Hobson. I am in the first year of the Michigan School of Psychology's PsyD program. Um, and I was asked by Dr. Brown to be on this team, and I primarily worked on the literature review and also helped with presenting um, the overall research at the Division 32 conference in Red Bluff, California, and also the Social Work Congress in Denver.
Okay. Awesome.
And I'm Katie Elms, and I'm a fourth year in the clinical psychology program at Saybrook University with Dr. Brown. I'm currently the president of our Psychi chapter, and I served as the communications coordinator for the combined research project. And was that all you wanted to know?
Oh, yeah, no, that works. And I think we're going to kind of
Fantastic.
get into the nitty-gritty details of everybody's role in a little bit. But
Love it.
let's dive right in. How did the MSP Saybrook research collaboration begin?
I'll take that one. This was a project that I started in collaboration with Jasmine Ione and Blake. What's Blake's last name? Kowalski.
Kozlowski.
Kozlowski, thank
Yeah.
you, Kozlowski. Both of them were in a humanistic group supervision with me when I was faculty at Michigan School of Psychology. And we used a humanistic orientation for that group supervision. The students had a lot of wonderful feedback about that and wanted to continue the work. And so we decided to broaden the work because it's not, we don't offer group supervision at Saybrook, and I was no longer working at Michigan School. So one way that we were able to continue that work was through Psychi. And so we decided to create a fidelity model. What does humanistic group supervision look like? And then bring that to both Psychi chapters, the Saybrook chapter and the Michigan School chapter. And we had a nice body of students who volunteered to be in research support for the project. Because I wanted to make sure that we had both universities represented, I reached out to Dr. Cusick as their faculty advisor, and she was gracious enough to step in and lead from the Michigan school side of things.
And I'll just add to that, when we sort of decided to join forces, there were some uh, we had to talk about just some of the aspects of how we would sort of work together. So one of the things that Dr. Brown and I first sort of tackled was we had to go through IRB. And so in discussions, it made sense to use Michigan Schools IRB. We have an outside IRB company. And so working on that together, we had to get agreement from both schools that we would, use the one IRB. And then that was sort of one of the first steps in sort of both institutions working together.
Mhm.
And part of that was making sure that our research team had all the city training because Saybrook has different city training than Michigan School. And so part of what Dr. Cusick and I had to collaborate on was making sure that all of the students had that city training so that they could be
Mhm.
listed on the IRB application ahead of time.
So it sounds like there was a lot of technical behind the scenes conversations before you guys could even really launch this and get other people involved?
Mhm.
We sort of launched it and then did the
Okay.
technical stuff, I think,
Mhm.
because part of the humanistic model is it's intended to be incredibly student-centered. And so from day one, when we were just even talking about brainstorming what the project would be, we were already meeting with students to get their opinion on that.
Mhm.
And so it started off as a team of about 20 students, and there's 3 faculty members. So Dr. Betts King is also one of the faculty members on with us. Courtney Cabell is now one of the faculty members at Michigan School. When we started the project, she was not a faculty member, and now she's been offered that position. So Dr. Courtney Cabell would be our 4th faculty member on the
Mhm.
team, along with our students. So from the beginning, we were talking to students about which IRB do we want to use? Do we want to use Saybrook? Do we want to use Michigan School? We talked about what the research question would be, what the details of how we were going to research this. So the students from the ground up have built this entire research project.
And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Brown, but like that was a big part of doing this, not just collaboration, but the research project, like teaching students, mentoring students from the very beginning, taking an idea and then following through on, working on the research together, formulating the question, assigning specific roles to students to get this project done and seen through to conferences to eventually publication. So,
Yes,
um,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, we want students to be, I think Kate and I both agree, we want students to be able to do their research. And so this was a mentorship opportunity for them, but also an opportunity specifically for Michigan. Michigan does not allow group supervision to count for psychologists. And so one of the points of this was to situate our research as an advocacy platform as well, to evidence that group supervision can be effective. So eventually, if students wanted to use that and advocate for Michigan to allow them to use group supervision, that they would have some research backing that would allow them to do that.
So it definitely sounds like students were at the core of this research project and really driving it, which oftentimes I feel like students assume that it's the professors that are driving the research project. So it's really cool to see the fact that it was such a student-driven project. What goals did you hope to achieve through this collaboration?
Yeah, I think we should let Jasmine and Katie talk about that because they were both really integral in creating the goals of the group.
For myself, I'll start if that's okay. So one of the things that I was most appreciative of about this project was the opportunity it provided for our Psychi chapter to have the ability to be on a real research project. One of the things that our chapter members have repeatedly said that is of interest to them is to have research experience. And so Dr. Brown, from our perspective, made that possible for us. And so we did have, quite a few students interested. We had quite a few students from Saybrook. It was about an even split on the team as well. And, quite a few of us did really get to have that process experience, not just the research, not just writing a lit review, not just presenting, but really being part of the process from the very beginning to now nearing the very end and seeing every single piece that really does have to be part of it. And also working as a team and holding leadership positions and being relied upon. I think there was just so much value from a student perspective and being allowed this opportunity to really be involved. To your point, I know that like when you see a paper and it's like faculty name, student name, it's like, no, but that's not how this felt at all. So it was really an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, I would agree, especially with the collaboration aspect. It was really a pleasure, honestly, getting to work with both MSP students that I wouldn't normally see or interact with because they're at different stages of the program. Also, getting to interact with Sagebrook and just having our meetings together where we collaborated and made decisions on how we were going to do this research, how are we going to present our results and all of just like the little factors that went into creating this project and getting to see all of the different perspectives and everyone's background and orientation and the way that they view other people and view the world in this very humanistic way, but still very unique, was really interesting and um, engaging to really be a part of and watch this project grow into what it's become. So yeah, I feel like the collaboration aspect of just getting to work with different people rather than just people at school, which can be very convenient. We get to work with an entire different program, a different university, and getting to see what does humanistic look like outside of the Michigan School of Psychology, and getting to see those perspectives and work together. I feel like was a really big goal of this project, and just really cool to be a part of.
And I think for me, one of my goals also was to help my students to develop their leadership skills. And so I was very intentional in not jumping in to save students. So when they were asking questions, I would be like, I don't know, how do you find that information? And then they would have to go and find the information because I'm there as a supervisor, as a mentor, as a guide, but not to answer questions that you can easily find online. And so part of this is you are the leader here, you have to be the leader. There is an example, I think Katie will feel comfortable with me sharing some of the mentorship work we did. Okay. So Katie is one of my students who likes to jump in and do everything, and she will sign up for anything. She would be the group person for quantitative, qualitative, the lit review. If she could, she would do it all. And so one of the mentorship things that Katie and I worked on is for her to be the communication only coordinator, which meant that when a team was not rising to what their responsibilities were, for her to figure out how to orient herself as a mentor to them,
Mhm.
to help them identify what the challenge was and how they could continue to move forward. And so Katie has really grown a lot in her mentorship skills through this process. We had one member who was really struggling because their skills were a little bit lower on the spectrum. They were early introductory level. And so there was some frustration there about like they're not able to do the things we need them to do. And so Katie really had to scaffold that person to help get them up to where we needed them to be as a student leader. And I think that was really important for your skills, Katie, as a leader.
And I think one of the other interesting parts about this collaboration, because we had this large team, but there was students had a lot of choice when we're talking about humanistic existential pillars and beliefs. There was choice in terms of what sort of leadership responsibilities they might want to take, or what even groups within the team they wanted to join. So we had, because we did a mixed method study, if a student wanted to contribute to the quant analysis, whereas other students really wanted to get involved with the qualitative analysis. There was choice in terms of parts of the research that they could get involved in.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you for that perspective. These next couple set of questions are for the professors. So for Dr. Cusick and Dr. Brown, what has it been like collaborating with faculty and mentoring students from another institution?
It's
I
been great.
personally have so enjoyed it, Dr.
Yeah.
Cusick.
Yes, and I have as well. I think probably both Dr. Brown and I, we get an opportunity to know the students at our respective institutions. So it's been really wonderful just to hear from students from Saybrook. And again, both the students at MSP and at Saybrook, they're in various different stages of their respective programs. And so watching sort of that like tiered mentorship approach has been really great.
I also think it helped to normalize grad school because there's a lot of overlap and similarities between the two universities. So sometimes students can get a little bit siloed and think,
Mhm.
oh, this is because the institution is having challenges. And it was really helpful for them to see that part of this is grad school is difficult. It's difficult to become a doctor of psychology. And it sort of normalized some of those challenges that they were having at both institutions.
And what unique strengths has each institution contributed to the partnership?
Mm.
I mean, I think the strengths come from we both have students that were very interested in doing this research, that believed in it, and that contributed their time and their expertise to the project, as well as sort of a collective, willing to sort of build this collective, collaborative community and share their knowledge, but also a willingness to learn from others, I think was really wonderful to see.
We're both humanistic institutes, and so we both had that core foundational understanding of where we wanted the project to go and how it was going to operate. And so we didn't get into some of the challenges we might have from institutions that had different value systems. Saybrook was in a period of IRB transition because our IRB chair had stepped down and they were just orienting someone new. And so we identified that our IRB at Saybrook might not be the best possibility to move forward. And so having MSP's IRB, who has a lower number of proposals going through, was definitely a benefit to have that connection with them. Saybrook, because we are owned by the Community Solution and there's 9 different institutions, we have access to a library system that is incredibly vast, and we have a lot of support from other institutions. And so I think that that connection probably helped us with our recruitment and with our literature review to have that wide of access.
Have there been any unexpected benefits or lessons that you've learned through this collaboration?
I think one of the benefits that I would just say is I think Dr. Brown did a wonderful job organizing the whole process, like from start to finish. Because the research team was so big, it was valuable in that so many students could join. But she did an excellent job of then keeping everyone, and along with Katie and Kimberly as the communication coordinators, just with that many people, over 20 people on a research team, there's a lot of organization that needed to be done and tracked. And that was, I think, just something that went better than I had maybe anticipated it would.
Yeah, I would say that would be a wonderful piece of advice for anyone managing an interinstitutional is to really have excellent organization. And that was why we chose to have a communication coordinator. We actually had 2 of them because 2 students wanted to, and we didn't need to compete for that. So we just said, yes, both of you can lean into that. And it was really helpful because then if Katie was busy with dissertation, then Kimberly could step in. If Kimberly didn't have the skill set for something, Katie could step in. So it was really excellent to have different team leaders and then for people to just collaborate and step in with one another. It was very helpful. And Katie, I saw that you had something to share too.
Oh, I just, since when you said an unexpected benefit, this might seem a little bit obvious, but I came into this knowing it was a research opportunity. And so everything I gained, all the specifics I gained, I did not anticipate, but I guess I did expect to gain a better understanding of the research process and what it means to be on a research team and, the organization, all of those aspects. What I didn't expect that was extremely impactful was when Jasmine was there as well, when we went to present at Division 32. And we had quite a few team members there, and we all took turns presenting our part or a part we were familiar with. And after the presentation was over, there was a room of humanistic students and faculty and practitioners, and everyone was so engaged in the actual research we had completed, right? Not the research project, not, who needed to write this at midnight tomorrow night, right? But what it actually contained and meant. And I think that it was the first time it sort of recentered that it wasn't just the process, it was also the result. And getting to talk with that group about the importance of humanistic group supervision and the real power it contains and how it is different than non-humanistic group supervision or just humanistic single supervision. It was uplifting, it was integrating. It made me really see the value and believe in the impact of the research we had completed in a way I just hadn't quite seen yet. So it was a very proud moment.
Yeah, and we since then we've had multiple institutions ask us for our fidelity model. We've
Nice.
had other supervisors reach out to want some training from us about how to be humanistic supervisors. And so that would, I think, is a wonderful benefit. We brought this to the World Congress, and so now there's an international implication here as well
Mhm.
for practitioners bringing this back to their respective countries and adapting it culturally for use.
I think for me, an unexpected benefit was just seeing like how far an idea in this field can go. Um, you know, you can even in school come up with an idea for a dissertation or for a research paper or for a presentation. But for us to take this one idea and to kind of stretch it, I guess, and be able to present it at multiple conferences and have those different experiences, getting different questions from different people, and then eventually working towards publication, just all of these experiences that have really aided, I feel like, our professional growth, um, just from this one idea. Um, I think being so early in my program and in this career, it's really opened my eyes up to just the possibilities that this degree can open for you. Even though I want to mainly do therapy in the future, that research doesn't have to be something that's really scary or daunting or very numbers heavy, that it can be very collaborative and very humanistic and can open up all of these other opportunities. Um, so I feel like that's unexpected benefit that, yeah, I wasn't really thinking about when we first started it. So it's been, again, really great to be a part of.
Oh, that's awesome to hear from both of you. These next set of questions are for the students. What was it like working alongside students and faculty from another institution?
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, I feel like I really appreciated that collaboration. The Michigan School is, well, has a really great community. It's also a pretty small school. So it was just really interesting for me getting to hear from the other perspectives from the Saybrook students and faculty of the way they view humanistic psychology and how that factors into the way they do therapy, the where they see supervision, and even just how it factored into the process of research. Um, it was invigorating seeing everyone's passion about the project and about the idea. Um, and really all bringing our unique perspectives and feeling like we could be heard, um, rather than kind of just sitting back and letting the faculty members kind of just take over and we just follow and listen to what they do. It did feel incredibly student led, um, and that your unique perspective will be heard, will be listened to, and will be considered and influence what this project as a whole looks like. Um, so having that opportunity, especially at this stage in the program, I feel like was very beneficial to my pathway moving forward and just getting to have this experience so early on that I can always reflect on and look back to and also look forward to because we're still working on it and
Mm.
really getting excited about what else we can keep doing with this idea and with this project.
I definitely support everything Jasmine just said. I mean, the collaboration was definitely for me, it was a little bit fangirl at first because Dr. Brown and Dr. King are both from Michigan School on their own, and so we hear about Michigan School all the time. And so it's like, oh my gosh, we get to work with Michigan School. Are they gonna like us? Like, so it was really, it felt like a very big moment from the very beginning. I definitely support that it was a camaraderie, right? It felt exciting. Like when we actually finally got to meet in person at Division 32, and I happened to run into Blake at a completely different conference. I don't know. I've like you just feel this like connection to someone from having worked on a team so closely with them that is really incomparable. Like you can't just manufacture that except through that connection, through that work. I definitely I think that I want to second that this experience made research feel approachable. I know Jasmine said that it didn't feel as intimidating, but it really does feel like something we can do, right? Students can do this. You can participate. You are capable and you can learn and get better, but it's something you can access right now. And I think, especially from the collaboration, it really lent this sense of other people also care about the things you care about. So there's sort of like inherent validation. And what I've sort of been coming to through this project and maybe over the doctoral program in general is that things only get done because people decide to do them. So this was something that, Dr. Brown introduced to us as an idea. There were so many people that were passionate about it, that did put their time, energy, effort, but we wanted to do it, right? And now it is done, and now it's being disseminated, and it's making an impact. And that holds a lot of weight for me, just in the power of a team, of an idea. So yeah, very cool.
Thank you. And for the final question for the students, what skills or experiences have you gained through this collaboration that you might not have developed otherwise?
For me, it's very practical. I feel like we've talked a lot about sort of like the warm feely, like abstract things, but just the research process, it's so particular from the start to the finish. And it needs to be, but working within that system absolutely does feel intimidating until you've gone through it. And so it's like, okay, this really is just a series of 100 steps. But so for myself, I think we all learned about what it looks like to make an IRB submission, which I feel so grateful for because going into dissertation, it's like, okay, good. I know what this looks like. I don't feel completely, unknown to the process. But so we went through the whole IRB submission. We worked as a team, right? It really was, especially with such a big team, the skills of diplomatically, right? Being like, please do your part, right? And just, handling people and their interactions and putting even like their work, putting that work together. Dr. Cusick, one of my absolute favorite memories of doing this over the last couple of years was when we all got on really early on. We all got on with the lit review team, and it was you and me and Blake mostly. And we were just going through, I think, hammering, clarifying like the interview questions, I believe. And it was so fun. It was so fun to have that collaboration about something important and esoteric, and it was a really good learning experience and also just a really nice memory. But so for me, I think just the practicals of the whole research experience and still learning, right? Because we're still going through the publication process, but it's really invaluable as a student.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with the learning about the research process as a whole is something that I really got out of this. Learning, really seeing the IRB process, but also different models of research and what that looked like. I'm still, again, pretty early in my program, so we're still kind of at the beginnings of learning about both quantitative and qualitative research. So really getting a experiential example of what those models can look like. And especially with this project of doing a mixed method research model of seeing how those two models really come together and the amount of rich knowledge and data and results you can get from mixing those two together. So I feel like that's something that I really learned and took away. I think as well, just a lot of confidence in myself as a researcher, as a clinician, um, and as a future psychologist as a whole. I feel like something that I gained a lot from this project is experience being knowledge and data as well, not just from our participants, but my own experiences as well, because how I know Dr. Brown is from being in her group supervision when I was in the master's program at the Michigan School of Psychology, which was ran humanistically. Um, And I was asked to bring a lot of that knowledge from that experience into this space, not just as a, well, this is my story, but as actual data that we took into consideration when creating the fidelity model, um, and even talking at presentations, getting to talk about my own experience and that being considered valid and considered data rather than just um, information. I think that's something that I took away from this experience as well, is the importance of your own experience and how that can be just as important as any other type of data.
Thank you for sharing that. Um, it sounds like this project was very rewarding for everyone involved. I'm wondering if there were any challenges to collaborating across institutions, and how did your team work through them?
I mean, I think logistically, the challenge is it's a large group of people working on it and time zones, like to be
Mm,
to it just we're, we have Eastern all the way to Pacific time zones and in between. And so just trying to sometimes find the time, especially if we were trying to get the entire committee together. And even along with scheduling, we're on different academic calendars, both institutions. So that, at times presented a challenge. We've been working on this project for over a year now, and like we said, the students had shared, they've been able to present at two conferences and um, both with MSP and Saybrook students, but challenges in terms of just figuring out like who can go and present, who won't be able to go, will there be a faculty member present? So a lot of like logistical sort of challenges that we just all sort of managed to work through.
Another one was access to the data and the files. So IRB wanted us to use a secure drive, which we chose to house our data at Saybrook University because we have a really nice tech team that ensures the security of our data. But then that left the question of how are MSP students going to
mm,
access our data at Saybrook. So that brought up a unique challenge. And I think that essentially involved Katie like manually making sure that people had access as needed to documents. The other thing was like, what email address do we use? Are we using a Saybrook one or a Michigan school one? And coordinating with our IT team, which again, that sort of narrowed down who could have access. And so we had to choose one student. Katie was the student as the communication coordinator to have access to that. But then that meant she had to do a lot of the email communication with our participants because we couldn't spread that responsibility out. So that was a challenge that I'm not sure. I think we sort of handled the best we could. I don't know if there's a different way to handle it aside from paying for secure data or secure email
mm, mm.
services. And we didn't have a grant or any money going into this. This was all volunteer work. Another challenge, not necessarily from interinstitutional, but I just want to point out because I think it was a learning opportunity, was that we had a low recruitment at when we needed it. So we've had a lot of interest in the project, but like Dr. Cusick was saying, because of the schools being on different calendars, the recruitment was for clinicians in training. And
Mm.
so part of that was that some of them weren't starting practicum until after the group was over. Some were already finished before the group started. And so because of that, we had a low N, our low participant number, and that creates a lack of power in your research. And so we actually had a volunteer statistician, Dr. Beverly Griffer, come in and help us understand what do we do, what do we work with when you have a low N in the research, because we didn't have that skill set on our research team. We didn't have a statistician. And so I think that was a great learning opportunity for students who come up against an obstacle or a challenge of how to continue your research forward, even when you're not getting the number or the results that you really want.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, and something that students got to see real time as students progress through and complete their dissertations, recruitment and or attrition can often be an issue. And so seeing sort of real time, you can still complete your project, but here are some adjustments that you might need to make along the way, I think was a good learning opportunity for everyone.
For sure. I think handling at every stage as a group, collaboratively handling, okay, what are we going to do for this? Okay, this didn't go as planned. How are we going to shift? I feel like our group did a pretty phenomenal job of keeping that space open to solutions and working together and making sure everyone was on board. It absolutely was a learning opportunity. It feels possibly like the most productive part of the process, right? Sort of meeting those challenges.
And I know it's sounding like, all rainbows, but there were significant challenges sometimes when the group was at odds with one another.
Mhm.
There was conflict within the group several times where people were in a disagreement about how to move forward on something or what terminology to use. And so we approached that in a dialogical fashion where we allowed openness for everyone's opinions to be heard as long as they were respectfully communicated. And a few times we had to offer mentorship and how do we rephrase things to be a little bit more professional and open.
Mhm.
And then when we couldn't resolve a conflict just with dialogue, then we would vote as a team. So anybody who showed up had a vote. And that way we could continue the movement forward even when there was disagreement within the team.
And I thought that was really cool when there was conflict, it was approached almost as you would approach within a humanistic group if there was conflict. So just modeling some of that like in real time, in real life, it was just sort of an interesting observation to note there, given the research topic that was at hand. So.
Just a couple more questions left. What are you most excited about for the future of this collaboration?
Well, for me, I mean, moving forward, I know we want to publish the findings, and then I think there'll be opportunities, hopefully in the future, for future collaboration on other projects. I know Dr. Brown and I think I've been the Psych faculty advisor for a while now, and there would be future opportunities to collaborate on different research projects involving Psych members or just members within each institution as students sort of matriculate through each program.
Same. I would love to continue working on additional projects going forward. Saybrook's Psychi has just an annual research team, so we're always reinvigorating whatever our research topic is. And so now this opens up to where we can include Michigan School just automatically up front from that process and get their voice in it as well, because I think that helps diversify the voices that are represented. So it's not just from one institution, it's from both and maybe even expanding on that to some other Psychi chapters as well. What I'm most excited about is that our work is currently being used already. I think that's amazing. Saybrook has already incorporated our work into its supervision consultation course. So that's being used right now. I've had multiple supervisors reach out and ask for our fidelity model. So we know that this is being practiced already. And I think that is just the coolest, most impactful thing about the project.
So for my final question, and I pose this to everyone, if you could describe this collaboration in one sentence, what would you want others to know about its value or impact?
I would say it was challenging at times, but overall completely rewarding from a faculty perspective and just as a person to get to work with people who share the same values has been absolutely rewarding in ways that, again, I didn't necessarily think might happen going into the project. So.
And I would say for me, it opened up the possibility of doing research in a humanistic fashion. and a student-centered, using the values of humanistic psychology and actually embedding those into how do you do the research process. And I think that I'll probably continue to use this as a template going forward for other research teams.
I guess for
Um,
me, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jasmine.
uh, to summarize, I think I would say that saying yes is worth the experience. Even though this, took a lot of work and a lot of extra time, and grad school can already be busy on its own. I think taking that risk and not being afraid to take an opportunity that's offered to you can be really worth what the knowledge and the experience that you gain from that.
Thank you for that. I really want to thank you all for taking the time to share about this experience and this collaboration. It sounds really interesting and exciting, and I'm really happy to feature this collaboration in our MSP newsletter, research newsletter in the fall, and really giving students another opportunity to see what research looks like. So I really want to thank you for spending the time just to kind of share your experiences.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, so will we
Thank
be
you.
sent a copy of that as well?